presentation is on billiards, obviously. So why billiards? I've been playing for now 8 years, and it's probably one of the best ways I can talk for over 20 minutes. I started playing when I was with my dad. He goes to a league every week, and one night I just had to go with him, and ever since then I've just been wanting to go with him. So after a year of just going there, I wasn't in part of the league. I was begging him for me to be part of the league. One day he eventually said I could join. After a year of doing it, for the final part of the league, they do a pool tournament. And when we went to the last session of it, they sadly said that the pool hall was shutting down after the tournament. So we played it, and I actually eventually won. One of the things that I was 8 years old and I won it, and I even talked to my dad, like, can't believe I won it. And he's like, yeah, some of the older guys were even walking up to me. It was like, so should I let them win? And I don't believe they did. Oh, I hope they don't. So after, this was actually on that day. It kind of worn down now. It's been 8-9 years. But it says Alex's first tournament, the date, chalk billiards, which is the name of the pool hall. And that's actually the 9-ball that I made that night, and I had the honor and misfortune of being able to shoot the very last shot of that pool hall. So one of the main points that I like to present is that the difference between what normal people would think of pool and what I would think of pool, or what pool players in general would think of pool. It's not just, like gambling, cigarette in mouth, like money games, a more professional thing. This is one of the pictures of Junior Nationals. I'm wearing the shirt that I actually wore when I was at this tournament. Sadly, I'm not in this picture. But yeah, it's a good layout. There's a convention in the back. This is one of the Moscone Cups. It's one of the biggest tournaments that pool players look forward to. America versus Europe. It's one of the things that pool players can be like, hey, we can root for someone if there's a team involved. And obviously, like the social aspect a little bit, it's like leagues and stuff, like the ones that I played, where I got to hang out with as many people as I could. Kind of a little bit of the professional setting. This is actually the Moscone Cup, USA versus Europe. It's a more professional thing. This is kind of like, it's TV, it can be a professional setting. This is one of the USA captains, Rohan Muska. I can't really pronounce his last name. But me and my dad like to joke because, again, this is pretty much one of the only things, this and the World Cup of Pool, which is like country versus countries. It's not just, Europe versus America, but, you can't really think of an idea of like what captains could do because pool is such a solo sport. They've been learning by themselves, or I shouldn't say by themselves, but they've been playing by themselves for so long. So, like, me and my dad like to joke, what can the captain say? Shoot that shot better. Like, you can't really say what to do, but obviously they do. They see when players are playing good at that time, so they do control, like, who plays who and all that. One of the things first differences that, one of the basic differences that people will see is the cues. Pool players would think of, like, a work of art, while I shouldn't say you guys, but while normal people would think of a pool cue as just, a piece of wood with a tip on it. It's a true piece of art where you can make something like 2 pieces of wood into something that can look pretty and you can use for while you play. So there's parts of the cue. Obviously, the most important part is the shaft, the tip, and the pin and the joint itself, because it kind of affects, for a pool player's standpoint, it kind of affects the hit. Obviously, if you're a collector of pool cues, you want to make it look as pretty as possible, as expensive as possible. This is just one of the tools. It's called a cue lathe. You just put either the cue itself, the butt, or the shaft, and it'll just whittle down whatever. And it'll whittle down. There's a computer on it right there. There's a drill bit that will whittle it down, and by the end of it, it will put on tips. It will compress it. One of the jokes that one of the pool cue makers that I know is that when his brother kind of helped him out, he thought all this stuff was painted on. But what it is that, so they're called inlays, where they will have the cue. This is just a piece of the cue. Joe Caluca, he's a cue maker that I know, and this is like his practice runs. This will be a piece of the cue. He will cut out whatever material he wants, either another piece of wood or like a metal or whatever. He'll cut it out. He'll cut a piece out of the cue, and he will place it on, glue it on, and then in the cue lathe, he will bring it down until it kind of looks something like this, where it has, you see the inlay of it. And the same thing with like these little things, like there's one right there you can clearly see, and this will be the piece of it. This is just scrap wood that he would just cut off. And yeah, it's a true art of even just the making of the cue. Sort of pool, it kind of started out as a long game back in the 1600s. You can even, like, especially with this picture, you kind of see how it developed, like with croquet, kind of like brought up to a table, you see it, and it kind of developed into just pockets themselves. Just different types of games. Obviously, with cue sports, there's a wide variety. These are just some of them. So one of the big ones, in the terms of the sport, is snooker. It's mainly played in Europe. Invented in Australia though, which is, I never knew that until then. But it's considered more of a sport. There's a lot more money involved. It gives people a chance to actually make a career out of, well, it gives them more of a chance to make a career out of, cue sports itself. These are just some differences. With probably many people would know is that like either a 7-foot table or a 9-foot table. Snooker is played on a 12-foot table. The balls are smaller, and I sadly couldn't get an image, but you can kind of see here the pockets are rounded. So if you hit the ball and it hits the outside of the pockets, it will just spit it out. So you have to aim at that opening or it will not go in. Chinese 8-ball, this is kind of an attempt to make billiards into a tougher game and a game with more money involved. It's obviously made in China. China kind of invented it. They try to put a lot of money into it. A lot of players went to China to play in these tournaments. Sadly, it's not going too well right now, but hopefully, if billiards will rise, Chinese 8-ball will rise with it. And obviously, pocket billiards itself, the game that I mostly play on, the game that most of this presentation will be on, mostly known in the U.S. There's dozens upon dozens of games that can be played: 9-ball, 8-ball, straight pool, which is kind of a point game, rotation, which is kind of like 9-ball. I will explain right now. Just basic rules and terms. So in 8-ball, which many people will probably know, is that you make your suit, either the stripe or solid, low or high, whatever people want to call it, and whoever makes the 8-ball by the end of it wins. And a common misdirection is that if you make the 8-ball on the break, you win. I guess if you want to play like that, you can, but in professional rules, it doesn't. And obviously, if you make the 8-ball, you lose. That is a real rule. 9-ball, you shoot them in order. Whoever makes the 9-ball wins. It's slop, which means if you hit the lowest number ball and something just randomly goes in, it does count. While 8-ball, you have to call the shot. So I want the 9-ball to go in this pocket, and if you do something else, it's just the other opponent's shot. Just some terms like scratch. If you make it into a pocket, you can grab the cue ball, you can place it wherever you want. Ball in hand, which is that. In action, I'll say that a lot. It's just the spin that is put on the ball. So, second question that most of this project will be on is what makes billiards amazing, and I've actually asked different people, pool players that I know, this question. This is it.
I love the sport of billiards because the more you know, the more there is to know. It's a never-ending, challenging sport.
Sport is lots of fun. You do nice people, make friends, it's very competitive, and you're playing
I wanted to put their names in, but I didn't really know all their last names. So, but I will bring back all those points. But that's just some of the reasons what pool players see as billiards, and what I want other people to see, that why those reasons are really what makes billiards an amazing sport. Obviously, it's a social aspect. I'm not saying that everyone should go to the pro scene, everyone should try to be the best. It is a game like with baseball. Even though if you like baseball, obviously you're not going to be a pro. You just like watching it, you like learning about it. And same thing with billiards. I'm in this picture somewhere. It's junior league. Lately, I've actually been teaching the kids how to play. And this is just some leagues. Like obviously, it's a fun thing. It's a way to meet people, like what the people say. It teaches you to be respectful. Ever since I was little, it taught me how I was very fortunate to be in the crowd that I was. Obviously, with many things, there's a good crowd and a bad crowd, and I was very fortunate to be in the good crowd. Back in chalk billiards, every single time I would get a drink, every single time I would get like a piece of candy, I would have to say please and thank you, all that stuff. I was very fortunate to be in that environment. And obviously the idea of sportsmanship, shake their hand, all that stuff. A cue maker, I shook his hand one time and he says, you have a really good handshake. Some people, they would just throw their hand out there. You can really tell that either they don't have respect for you or they just don't have respect for the game itself just by a handshake. Also, one of the things that probably people are like, oh, pool's about geometry and math and stuff, which is true in a sense, but I like to look at it as physics, because everything affects everything. The cue can affect how the ball spins. The ball spins affects the angles, the table affects the angles, the weather conditions affects the angles. So I like to see it as physics more than geometry. Like if you have a shot, like example here, and if the ball goes over there, you can go on a different table, set up that same exact shot, and the ball may do that because either the cloth is like slick, or the table's moist, or whatever. This is just some of the spins that are used. This is just a diagram that was really cool that I found, but this is me displaying it. So with follow, you hit the top of the cue ball, and the ball wants to spin forward. So after contact, it goes forward. Same thing with draw. You hit below, the ball spinning this way while it's the forward motion. Once it hit the ball, wants to go back, and that's just stop. It's just really self-explanatory. This is spin, so that's a shot without any spin. It kind of went that way. If I use right spin, it goes that way. If I use left spin, it goes that way. Kind of the science of it is that if a ball is doing this, and then it hits something, after it does that, the spin wants to take off and it goes into an angle. And that's just one of the ways you can get position. So another thing about pool that maybe some people are deceived about is the challenge of it. Many people, I found a little psychological thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is when people don't have knowledge of something, they think they're better than they are. And when people have knowledge, they expect everyone else has that knowledge. There's multiple people in my league who I see, and it's like, it's completely obvious you have to do that. Why can't you do it? And it's because I have that knowledge and they don't. But, still I make that perception. Obviously, with pool, shot making, position, play, and strategy, this is just a little thing. With two circular or spheres hitting, there's just a needle point spot of where it's actually contacting. That's how precise pool is. It's just a little point, and if you get that point just a little off, it can affect the game massively. This is just a small video showing it's not just shot making, which you can do. There's a quote by one of my favorite players, Susan Shaw. He says, good position is when both balls are on the table. So he sees it as no matter what. This is just same exact shot. One time I didn't use any spin and I scratched, and that of course would give me a disadvantage, but just a little spin and it could win you the match. This is just me shooting around, just getting position, but me and my dad also like to call it pool vision, where people, again, back to the Dunning-Kruger effect, like people don't see the shots, and me and my dad like to call it pool vision. They don't see that, hey, I have to use maybe a little bit of follow and get it over there. There's a lot of strategy involved. Obviously, you can be a very impressive pool player and bank the shots, but if you're a smart pool player, or if you decide to, you can play safe, where you can leave it behind the ball, and they will have a tougher time, hitting the one ball or two, and then you may get a foul, or they may get a foul, and then you can have ball in hand wherever you want. This is another thing that is very challenging. Obviously, how you stand, just all around knowledge, I'll explain later, and just the mental part of the game. This is just some things, this is just how pool players should stand, but with, I like to categorize this is something that I kind of thought of. These are three styles that I could think of at the top of my head: Filipino, American, and European. Filipinos, they don't really have a mechanical thing. When they stroke it, they have a really big, swing, and it's like, how can you control the ball? But yet these great players can. American, they kind of have, the really mechanical way, but you can still see some like rhythm. You can really tell a mechanical player compared to like a natural player, like how they move around. And European, they kind of more mechanical size. They're very like down and very robotic. It's kind of interesting how you can even see it through just that. And this is just a pro match that I love this match. It's Jason Shaw versus Alex Line. Just the fact of the concentration aspect. Pro players, they have technically perfect fundamentals. They have perfect knowledge of the game. This is a hill match, which means whoever wins this rack wins and gets to go into, I believe, the finals. It's either finals or semifinals. A very easy 9-ball for a pro player to make. But he misses. It's very, very easy, but just the fact that it's a hill game and just the pressure of it. And this is just me making the shot. Even me, who is not a pro, can make the shot hundreds upon hundreds of times without me even thinking. But same with me. If I was in a pressure situation where I had to make this 9-ball in order to win, it just messes you up. With all-around knowledge, this is just a little breaking thing. You have to know the pro players can understand with gaps in the rack how the balls will move. So what they're trying to do, just to know, is that they're just trying to make the ball in there, the one ball in the side pocket, and run out the table. But it's just very interesting how they can now read the rack, where they can make the break do whatever they want, while used to you just hit it as hard as you can and I got here, time to shoot. This is just me running out just to kind of show pool vision and kind of show off a little bit, to be honest. But obviously the break, I made the corner ball, I didn't make the 1-ball, and obviously I had a tough shot for the 1. I also had a tough shot, I almost missed. Like some players I would see where I would hit a draw, come out and in for the 3-ball. This is 9-ball, so I'm shooting in order. And again, many players would see this as kind of easy maybe, but it's kind of tough to do what I am doing right now. Another common error is that people don't know how to use draw. They'll kind of just hit it, they'll end up there and have a lot tougher shot. And also like the camera, like pool, I think is very interesting to watch. Obviously because I play it and I understand how tough it is. But other people may disagree. The camera kind of also disilludes how tough the shots are. That's just editing error. So one final thing is like how I personally see billiards. Obviously I see it as amazing. I've been saying it 50 times over. But me personally, I've been to Vegas 3-4 times now, for junior nationals again. I've played in many tournaments. Obviously, it's not a big sport, and you don't get famous from this really. From my last junior nationals, I got 5th place. And obviously, if I was playing baseball or football and I had that type of status of 5th best in the country, I would be going to any college I want. I'll be, people will be scouting me. But in pool, I'm presenting what but it just, for me, and hopefully for you, it shows how dedicated that I want to get this good, not for the fact that, for all that fame, even though I hope to be in like the Moscone Cup, and I want to be in some type of fame-ish thing, but like, it's not so big that I hope to be. I just love the game so much that I want to play it. One of the fun, cool things, little picture, I won Massachusetts State Champ against Lucas Werner, a very good junior player, and in the Facebook comment, I had to beat him twice because he was in the winner's side, I was in the loser's side, and one of the comments were that I can't believe, because Lucas is a good player, many people know him, he's kind of a little bit more famous than me, to be honest, but people saw me as beating him, and there was a comment saying, I can't even imagine how this kid plays if he beat Lucas twice, and it's just one of those moments where, like, it shows that I've done something cool. I got many information. I got a lot of sources from this, but one of the big sources is me. I've been playing for 9 years. I'm glad that I got to show this to you, and thanks.
Oh, wonderful.
Hey, Joe. Do you have any questions?
Oh my God, this was great.
Nice.
I thoroughly just the mechanics. I mean, I'm a pool hall, yeah, let's just go out and shoot some pool type of person, but I don't have it in my downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
But we did have a little kids table one.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, my kids loved it. So, tell me a little bit more about the junior nationals. Like, when does that take place, and
So it's...
how do you get there? And
It's every summer I play in a junior league, which I saw, and it's the organization is called the BEF. It's maybe on my shirt
probably
somewhere.
on the side, yeah.
Yeah, BEF. It's just an organization for, obviously, kids. I don't know what they call, but the person who runs the league, he actually has a lot of power in the BEF, so he's kind of like, technically you're supposed to qualify and he gets some invitations, but in order for him, he likes to just send out as many kids as he can just for the experience aspects. So Junior National is not fully a show of ranking, it's more to have the experience, but obviously there is the aspect of showing rank, and it happens like every summer. Sadly, I'm too old now to play in it.
Yeah, that was going to be another question. When does that end for you?
How do you qualify for the Moscone Cup?
So some pro tours, obviously there's various tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
It's just by Moscone Cup points. If a tournament has, a dealing with Moscone Cup, and they're like, okay, so if you win this, you get this many points. If you win this, you get this many points. Whoever has the most points wins.
Mm-hmm.
It sometimes varies. Like one time there was a captain's pick. The captain gets to pick one player, and the others by Moscone Cup teams. One time it was fan favorite, so you got to vote for who you want to be on the team.
That was awesome. Good for you.
2 more quick questions. One that is relevant, the other one not at all. On the mock-up of the cue that you have there, you were talking about the inlays.
Yes.
When they're sanded down, when they're all flat or lay flush, I should say, because it is rounded. Is that purely artistic, or is there some sort of a strategic element to the type of wood that a player might put on there?
So sometimes, again, everything affects everything, like I said before. So obviously the wood can affect some unknown variable that we have yet to, or even the hit of the, like you can tell when you hit a cue and another cue, they have different hits. So obviously the wood can affect it. But if you're looking at a collector's view, it's obviously like artistic.
Are there rules in like league play as far as the type of cue that you use? Like, Does it need to be a certain
Not
type of wood?
generally. There is, which is, I shouldn't say a problem, but it's a big thing with jumping. And what they found out is that there's something called a jump cue where it's, I don't know the exact science, but it's a shorter stick, and it makes it so much easier to just 45-degree angle, hit it,
Mhm.
and the ball will jump.
Mhm.
Sometimes they will say like, oh, it can't be too short, it can't be, and some players don't even like allow jump cues because of how, because you can save someone like what I did, and all you have to do is, oh, okay, boop, and
Yeah.
then hit the ball.
Okay. One more.
Mhm.
Could you scroll back to the very beginning? I have a very quick question for you, and I hope you know the answer to it. Go to the billiards is not what you think slide. The picture on the right, what's that from?
Hustler?
Yup. Very good. Do you know who stars in it? Do you remember?
No.
That's Paul Newman right in front, and Jackie Gleason is the other star.
Yeah.
Okay, but you got the movie right. That's what counts.
Yeah, I know. Like,
That's like the only billiard movie.
well, there's Color of Money and
Oh,
there's
that's
that.
true.
Oh, I was gonna say,
More
yeah.
money.
Those were like the big like '60s movies
Yeah.
where pool was really popular. Like that's also like one of the things. Like I really hope I was back in the '60s where pool was huge. But yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
And is that a pool table that's in your basement, or when all the
Yeah.
all the video? That's yours. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Alex.
That went so much better than my first one.